When Joel first arrives at the plaza today, he almost runs into the fountain again. This is an episode he doesn't want to repeat, so he stops and looks carefully at the hole in the side of the fountain in the middle of the plaza, which is where we stored hola, gracias, and o. To remind himself never to run into this fountain again, Joel draws the most happy, positive image he can think of, an imitation of the trophy that's drawn on the side of his house. Joel tells himself, "All right, if you can avoid running into this fountain, you win." The word bueno, which we've already learned to mean good or nice, is also used as an interjection or a filler word. Joel sometimes says bueno when he's thinking. It basically means all right, often before he starts a sentence. So we've stored it here along with other exclamations and filler words at the fountain in the plaza. Next, Joel looks up at the statue and sees something unexpected. 2 chainsaws are sticking out of the statue's legs. Perhaps some vandal came here during the night and tried to cut the statue down. One way or another, these saws are located halfway down the statue. In other words, they're positioned somewhere between sí, which is yes, on the statue's head, and no, which is not, on the ground behind the statue. So Joel uses the word quizás to mean maybe or perhaps. Quizás is halfway between yes and no, and the stressed syllable sounds kind of like saz. In fact, sometimes Joel shortens the word to quizá, which means the same thing. Let's take an overall look at the statue before we move around the plaza. All of the words on the statue are exchangeable with the words sí or no, and they can answer yes-no questions in many cases. At the top, we have words that affirm a statement. Sí means yes or indeed. Solo on the statue's eye means only. Hasta means even. And también, sticking out of the statue's ears, means also. As an example, you could use any of these words before the statement, it's mine. It is mine would be sí es mío. It's only mine would be solo es mío. It's even mine would be hasta es mío. Or it's also mine would be también es mío. But then halfway down the statue, we have quizás or quizá, meaning perhaps. In this case, we have to exchange the verb es in the phrase es mío for the subjunctive form, sea, which is the standard rule for chainsaws. After perhaps or maybe, Joel always uses a subjunctive verb. So for example, quizás sea mío. And then at the bottom of the statue, we have no, which would be no es mío. All of these words that we've learned on the statue fall into a category that I call booleans. So booleans would be words that can answer a yes or no question, or can be used at the beginning of a sentence to say whether it's true or not. To remember what boolean means, remember that this statue basically looks and sometimes acts like a ghost. So if you associate the statue with the word boo, you'll remember that these words, sí, no, and everything in between, are booleans. Let's practice using these words in a sentence and switching them out with one another. Remember that when we use no or sí, we'll use a normal conjugation afterwards. But if we use quizá or quizás, we'll use subjunctive. It's not very late would be no es muy late. But to say it might be very late or maybe it's very late, that would be maybe it be very late. Quizá sea muy late.
Quizás sea muy tarde.
He is there, or indeed he is there, would be sí está ahí. But maybe he's there would be maybe he be there, or quizás esté ahí, using the subjunctive. Now let's go to the steak stand. Here we previously learned muy which means very, and tan, which means so. These are degree adverbs. We're going to learn 2 more of these today. Joel notices that on the right side of the stand, there's a steak that's almost entirely covered with mold. This should be disgusting, but Joel thinks that this mold is moss, which he finds oddly beautiful because it's the substance that covers his car back at home. We learned on Joel's driveway that the word for more is mas. That word is also located here at the butcher's stand because it can be used as an adverb in place of muy and tan. For example, something can be muy bueno, tan bueno, or más bueno. Of course, the opposite of more is less. On the left side of the stand is a steak with much less mold on it, and it's shaped like a lion's mane. Joel's word for less is menos, so less good would be menos bueno. Joel moves along to the baker's stand. Previously, we learned ya and ahora, which refer to the present moment. We learned siempre, which surrounds the entire stand and refers to all time or always. We learned nunca, which is behind the stand and means no time or never. We learned entonces, which is scattered all over the stand and can refer to any moment in the past, present, or future. And we learned antes, which is drawn on the front of the stand, meaning first or beforehand. Remember that the baker likes to call out, "Aunties before uncles." Well, now the baker has drawn the uncles lined up behind the aunts, and he insists that they must wait in this place. The word después means afterwards, and it's the opposite of antes. So someone can come antes, which means beforehand, or they can come después, which means afterwards. Joel examines this picture on the front of the stand closely and notices that it looks like the baker's drawn the uncles taking turns standing on a scale. He asks, "Why are the uncles being weighed?" The baker responds, "Because the uncles are overweight. They can't eat bread while they're on a diet. They have to wait until later, after they've lost some of the weight." The word for later is luego, with a stress on we. Apparently the baker wants to serve the aunts beforehand, or antes, but he wants to serve the uncles afterwards, or después, which is going to end up being much later, or luego. The words después and luego are essentially synonyms, and since they're on the front of the baker's stand as the category where we've stored them, they're used exactly like antes, normally followed by de. For example, to say, before 2 in the afternoon, we would say, antes de las 2 de la afternoon. To say, better after 5 in the afternoon, we would say, mejor después de las 5 de la afternoon.
Mejor después de las 5 de la tarde.
And then since luego is used just like después, we could say better after 3 in the morning as mejor luego de las 3 de la morning. Now, when these words on the front of the stand are used without de after them, they mean something more distinct from one another. Después means afterwards specifically, whereas luego means later, more vaguely. So let's take another sentence example. Beforehand, I left, or first, I left. That would be antes me fui.
Antes me fui.
We could change the antes there to después or luego, depending on what we're wanting to say. To say afterwards he left, we would say después se fue.
Después se fue.
To say later they left, we would say luego se fueron.
Luego se fueron.
On the top of the grain stand, Joel notices a long baguette that's broken into a V shape. Joel recognizes this loaf of bread because it's been there for months. "Why haven't you sold that long piece of bread yet?" he asks. "Why do you still have it?" "Because it's not for sale," says the baker. "I own that piece of bread." The word here is aún. This word means still. So think of how the word aún sounds kind of like own. The baker still has it because he owns it. It's important to point out that this loaf of bread is in the middle of the stand because it represents the present moment, just like ya and ahora, but in a specific way. It stretches into the past and the future. So the word ya is represented by the knife, and it means anymore, emphasizing that something has changed. But aún represents that nothing has changed, so it means still. To the right of this, a little bit of tar is dripping down from the edge of the stand, slightly covering part of the baker's artwork. Apparently this tar was used to assemble the stand, but it starts to drip when the sun gets hot late in the day. This represents the word tarde, which means late, because the tar only drips later in the day, or tarde. Some of the loaves of bread on the baker's stand have names. The one in the middle that Joel punched and said ahora is extremely oily, and the name of the loaf is hoy. There's a crescent-shaped loaf to the right of this, and it looks a bit like a banana that's yawning. This is called mañana. These loaves represent days, so hoy means today, and it's related to ahora, which means now. But mañana comes after that. It means tomorrow, which is why it's placed after hoy, or to the right of it. So Joel uses a lot of adverbs related to time, and we need to make sure we can remember all of these before we move on to the fruit stand. Let's use them one at a time at the end of a sentence. So the sentence will be, I'll meet you here. We can put mañana there for I'll meet you here tomorrow. I'll meet aquí mañana. I'm meeting you here today would be I'm meeting aquí hoy. I'll meet you here very late would be I'll meet aquí muy tarde. I'm meeting you here now would be I'm meeting aquí ahora. I'll meet you here then would be I'll meet aquí entonces. I'm still meeting you here would be I'm meeting aquí aún. I'll meet you here beforehand would be I'll meet aquí antes. I'll meet you here afterwards would be I'll meet aquí después. I'll meet you here later is I'll meet aquí luego. I'm always meeting you here would be I'm meeting aquí siempre. And I'm never meeting you here is a sentence where we'd use a double negative. Literally, I'm not meeting you here never. Or no I'm meeting aquí nunca. So that's a recap of all of our adverbs related to time. Let's go over to the fruit stand for some location adverbs. Today at the fruit stand, Joel once again refrains from buying fruit because the fruit merchant still has a spider problem. We've already learned the word aquí to mean here, and the place that is located is in the middle of the fruit basket. But the word allí means there, and it's represented by the spider that Joel sees standing on the edge of the basket beside the fruit merchant's face. In Spanish, there's another word for there, and it's represented by a second spider. This one is on the edge of the basket, so it's not close to Joel or to the fruit merchant. It's in a third location. When Joel first saw a spider here, he was scared and yelled, "Ahí!" But this time, the other spider is further away. And so Joel says very clearly, allí. So this word means there, but it's different from ahí. Joel normally uses allí to refer to the place of the person he's speaking to. For example, if Joel is at home talking on the phone and the lizard is in the plaza and is the person he's talking to, Joel might say, I'll go there, referring to the plaza, which is the location of the lizard. Voy ahí. But allí refers to a third place. If Joel's at home and the lizard is in the plaza, and Joel is referring to the far-off mountain of Ria, his word for there will probably be allí. So remember that aquí is close to Joel, ahí is close to the fruit merchant's face, and allí is in a third location, not close to either one of them. Next, Joel goes over to the vegetable stand. When Joel flies up to the farming monkey's stand, he's shocked to see some disgusting smashed vegetables on the left side of the stand. They look like they've been badly mauled by clubs or maybe dull knives. What happened here, he asks. This doesn't look very professional. Oh, says the farmer, I tried to chop up these vegetables, but I did it very badly. When Joel compares the left side of the stand with the right side of the stand, he sees a huge contrast. On the right end is the can of money, which represents the word bien for us, meaning well. But on the left end are these horribly mauled vegetables, and these represent the word mal. These words are opposites. Bien means well, and mal means badly, because the monkey did it very badly. As an example, she was unwell for a while might be ella estaba muy mal por un tiempo. Of course, if we're emphasizing the event of her getting bad for a while, we would say ella estuvo muy mal por un tiempo.
Ella estuvo muy mal por un tiempo.
Note that mal and bien sometimes have a broader, more moral meaning. In Joel's mind, if you do something well, or bien, you're doing it correctly or right. But if you do something badly, or mal, you're doing it incorrectly or wrong. So bien can actually mean right, as in morally right, and mal can mean wrong. Here's a sentence example. After many years, I understood that it had been wrong. Now, we use estar in these cases because it comes before an adverb. So, after many years is después de muchos años, and then we have I understood que había estado mal.
Después de muchos años, entendí que había estado mal.
Here's the opposite. After many years, I understood that it had been right. Después de muchos años, I understood que había estado bien.
Después de muchos años, entendí que había estado bien.
Joel tells the farmer, I don't want any smashed vegetables. Do you happen to have any mint tea that I could buy? Sure, says the monkey. I keep that in the cubby under the stand. Open that door down there and you'll find the tea there. Joel looks down and sure enough, there's a door at the bottom of the front of the stand that he had never noticed before. He opens it, and to his shock, he sees the shepherd inside this cubby. Hello, says the shepherd. Would you like to come and buy tea with me? I'm not going anywhere with you, says Joel. He's a bit freaked out to see the shepherd here. He's never seen him anywhere except in the countryside before. To say, I don't want to shop for tea with you, Joel says, I don't want to shop for tea contigo. So the stress is on tea, and this word means with you, contigo. It's all one word. Meanwhile, the word for with me is conmigo. I won't shop for tea contigo, and you can't shop for tea conmigo. Disappointed that he hasn't bought anything, and still shaken at the sight of the shepherd in the plaza, Joel now flies home. We'll follow him there in the next video, but first make sure you can remember all the words from each location in the plaza. List them out on paper and make sure they're all in your memory. Then we'll move on to some new adjectives and nouns.